if you're looking in somebody's face and it feels good. If the person smiles at you and you smile back, it relieves your anxiety. It, so you have to show up to a conversation like that.
Hey, it's Brad, and boy, am I happy you're here. If this is your first time, I'm really glad you found us. You're not going to be disappointed. And if you've been here before, welcome back. This is Pain to Performance. Let's jump into today's conversation. So you love them, right? You absolutely know you love them. And they love you. But you keep having the same fight, the same words exchanged, and the same walls just keep going up, the same silence afterwards. And every time it happens, you wonder, is this who we are now? So today, I'm sitting down with Jeff Short. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist in San Francisco. And before that, he was everything. Literally. When he was asked as a child what he wanted to be when he grew up, he said everything, then tried to execute that exact plan. He founded a national cocaine hotline that took 1 million calls. He appeared on Good Morning America and The Today Show. He lobbied Congress for the ASPCA. He recorded rap albums in a studio in Manhattan. He even taught 6th grade in Hawaii, then managed a British bank's technology from Tokyo. And then he walked away from all of it and came back full circle to the one thing that always mattered, helping people change. Let's get into it. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Welcome to Pain to Performance.
Thank you very much for having me, Bradley. I appreciate it.
I'm really excited for today's conversation. Like, let me tell you, when I read through your entry form, I just kept scrolling, thinking that there was going to be an end to your career list, and it just wasn't there. So, but before we get into like the 4 desires and the couples work that you do, I need to understand the man who has reinvented himself more times than most people change jobs. All right. So, can you take me back to the kid who said that he wanted to be everything?
I was just so intrigued by everything. I'm an old man, so I remember like the tail end of the space program, landing on the moon, and all the excitement around science. It seemed like science could do everything and anything. And I was also intrigued by the human mind. What are we going to learn right now? It seems like we know very little, except maybe what Freud came up with. But even as a kid, I was like, there's got to be so much more to learn about our minds. I wonder what's going to happen. Where is that going to go? And just everything intrigued me, everything. Math intrigued me, not enough to really get great grades and figure out calculus. I wanted to do space-time physics, but once I got into some of those calculations, I was like, okay, I'll try something else.
I get that.
Yeah, but I was just really fascinated by everything.
I mean, as a child, that sense of wonder is really something that should be protected. And It seems like it really was for you. And I'm curious, though, like you started your career in a psychiatric hospital in New York City right after college. And then you created something called the 800 cocaine hotline that ended up taking over 1 million calls, right? That research even got published in major medical journals. Yeah. You were on Good Morning America, The Today Show. You were in Time magazine. You were in your 20s at that period of time, right? What was it like to be that young and that deep into something that big?
Yeah, it was thrilling. And again, I took it as a challenge. I kept looking for challenges. All my life, I've been looking for challenges. And that at that time, I had been really turned off by computers. When I was in college, the computers were attaching to a mainframe that was in some other university, and you type a couple of things in, and it would come back and say error, and not even tell you what the error was, just say error. It seemed so inhuman. But then, as part of this 800 cocaine, I found in the back of this hospital, they had an old Radio Shack computer And they didn't have any manual for it, but they did have a book on how to write games. So I took that and started writing in BASIC and trying to create a database. And that became the database we used in 800 Cocaine to so that when people called in, I would have a resource to give them. If they were calling me from Las Vegas or if they were calling me from anywhere in the US, I would have somebody nearby who could help. And that was
That's
the goal.
amazing.
And then we also
That's really cool.
questions and develop research out of that did get published in the Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine, other important journals. So it felt really good. What does that do for me? It starts pumping the serotonin and saying, whoa, you're really good. You're actually better than you thought you were. Because I'm somebody who's always hard on myself. Sure, I'm never as good as other people say, and that I'm an imposter here and somebody's going to find me out. But you keep doing this stuff. You know, the Today Show comes in and you get through a live shot standing next to a map of the United States, pointing out all of our resources around the country. It feels really good. Or a picture in the New York Times, stuff like that. It's just so thrilling as a kid. It really makes you feel good about yourself.
Absolutely. And you brought something up there, and the listeners probably heard it too. You're talking about imposter syndrome right there. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you what, Jeff, it's not just me that probably, that feels that. I'm sure there's somebody else out there. And I know we're going to jump into that here soon as well. But you left all of this, right? You went to the ASPCA and lobbied Congress, which, by the way, go you. I'm actually in the process of helping a dear friend of mine with a local German Shepherd rescue. We're trying to actually bring it back, revive it a little bit, give it some proper processes and things of that sort. So your work at ASPCA, extremely admirable. I've actually got my German Shepherd sitting right next to me. I'm sure she'll probably hop up in this couch here in a moment whenever the ground gets too hot for her. But you then moved on to working in a recording studio, staying up all night with rap artists. I mean, that's a really cool thing. And then you taught 6th grade in Hawaii. So you managed a British Banks technology in Tokyo as well. You told me in your entry form that every new career brought hope and fear in equal measure. The excitement of starting over and the terror that they would find out that you're an imposter, which is what you're talking about, right? Like, why did you keep jumping? Like, where was that coming from?
Part of it is boredom. That sense of awe and wonder and intrigue at the beginning gets stale if you're not learning something new. It feels to me like if I didn't learn anything new this week, then I guess it's a cliche. I don't know. Is it a cliche to say if you're not growing, you're dying? But it kind of feels that way. I feel like I'm going backwards if I'm not learning new things and filling my brain with new ideas, that I'm just stale. I'm just running on old information and all the old things that I used to say last year. I want to learn new things and grow. So when it gets to the point where, there were different reasons, but when I start to get bored is when I start looking around and wondering, does this really make sense? And at that time, working with the ASPCA, I had a small recording studio at home. I had my own home computer that I had paid a fortune for, and I was trying to learn how to program it, and I really wanted to use MIDI and create a whole home studio. I didn't know how to do it, and there weren't any books at the time really on the subject. So I just knocked on the door of somebody I knew owned a recording studio. So I knocked on the door there. I didn't know the owner of it. I knew somebody who knew the owner. And I just said, I'd be happy to work here for free if you'll teach me how to use computers in music. And that's what they did. So they were paying me by the end of the week. I didn't actually have to work there for free. And I became an assistant recording engineer. And then at times, depending on the band, I would be the recording engineer. I was also composing music and trying to write jingles and trying to write background music for TV shows and stuff, which was a blast. But I realized at a certain point that I was still first of all, it takes forever to become a great recording engineer. It's actually
Sure.
a lot harder than it looks. It's not just tweak a few
Absolutely.
dials. It's to make a song pop. It takes a lot of the 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. It takes a lot of
Yeah.
practice, right? So, and it didn't feel like that was giving me the meaning. I mean, it was a great creative outlet, but it felt like I should be doing something more meaningful. So I decided to work with underserved kids and ended up with a master's in developmental education and started teaching sixth grade out in Hawaii. They offered me a job. I was like, Hawaii, I've never been there. Sure, why not? That was great. And I learned so much from the kids and from the experience, stuff I use today. So, like, for instance,
That's amazing.
a couple months into teaching, I realized I'm a new teacher. This is going terribly. It feels really negative. I don't even know if these kids like me. And I'm just like constantly telling them what not to do. You stop doing that. No, no. I'm trying to keep the classroom from falling apart, trying to keep them focused on the projects I wanted them to do. And then I decided after a couple of months, I'm no longer going to catch them being bad. I'm going to catch them being good. And from that point on, I refused to, unless it was dangerous, I refused to talk about anybody doing the wrong thing. And I only talked about the kids who were doing the right thing. And it worked. I didn't have to yell. I didn't have to, kids started listening to me and they started doing the right thing. They wanted the praise. They wanted the appreciation. And it was much more effective than the punishment of screaming at them, where you have to just keep screaming louder and louder and louder to get your point across.
Of course, yeah.
I use that
absolutely
with couples, to this day. The idea of, come on, if somebody spent 3 hours cleaning the kitchen and then they left a little jelly on the counter, what do you notice when you walk into the kitchen? The jelly on the counter, right? That's all you see is the negative stuff. So, so what I want couples to do, catch your partner doing something right. Catch them being good. It's really easy to catch them being bad. Can you
absolutely. Yeah, your mind. You're so right. Well, you did say, and you didn't really tell me, but I'll tell you again, I didn't even have to really talk to you prior to this recording because of how good of a form that you submitted. Inside of the form, guys, I ask quite a few questions to every person before I bring them on the show to be able to help me navigate the conversation we're going to have. And Jeff, you said you eventually realized you had traded the idea of finding meaning in your work for a salary that could pay for a family and a home on Nob Hill, right? And after some soul searching, you decided to stop working with computers and get back to working with human beings, right? Can you take me back to that moment? Like, what did the soul searching actually look like for you?
Some of it was, I'm getting old and I'm starting to think about, do I want to be, the manager, vice president, director of technology at some banking institution when I'm 70 years old? Not really. And what do am I really interested enough? I was so fascinated by computers when I was young, and that became a through line in all of my careers, was using technology. And I'm very glad I got paid technology wages in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley. I made enough money that I could just stop work and go back to get a master's and become a therapist. Not everybody can afford to make that leap in the middle of their life.
Sure.
But I was fortunate in that regard. So I don't regret doing that, but I'm very glad that I turned around and decided. I had a therapist who was 80 years old at one point. He was great. He was one of my favorite therapists. He was an awesome guy. And it occurred to me, you can just keep doing this forever. Nobody's going to kick you out. If I get dementia, obviously I'll quit. But as long as I can keep going and people are willing to go along with me, why not? Just keep doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And like, guys, I like kind of want to pause here for a minute because what Jeff just described, like, I'm sure you had like hope and fear, right? That inside every major change that you had, right? So is somebody maybe something they're feeling in the body every single day? Maybe that's what they're feeling. So when someone comes specifically to a networking event or like even just into my office onto my treatment table as a massage therapist, right, their tissues holding both of that. It's the body and the brain really do have this connection. It's called that mind body connection, and a lot of people fail to remember that. So the breath that will not deepen is the nervous system saying, right, that the body's afraid to let go. And Jeff, I feel like that's the kind of work that it is that you're doing now. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's interesting that I went to an experimental college called Hampshire College, which unfortunately is now shutting down. But it was a beautiful experiment. And part of it is they cleared out an apple orchard in Amherst, Massachusetts, right down the road from Amherst College, and built a new college. And one of the things they did is built this beautiful gym right next to a beautiful library. And then they made sure there was a bridge between them. And I spent a lot of my time on the bridge between the physos and the nomos, between the mind and the body. And I have been thinking about that ever since. I mean, it really sunk in. And I really spent a lot of time there just for the metaphorical concept of right here is my library, right here is my gym. I'm going to go over there and do some karate, and then I'm going to go over there and learn something new. And yes, I want to be able to combine those two for the rest of my life. So in many ways, yes, I do somatic stuff, but I also do intellectual stuff. So you understand what's happening in your brain and your body.
And I think that's like why your work is different though, too, you know, because you understand that there is those connections, that you understand that there's these pieces that really do fit together quite perfectly. Right. And I tell everybody, especially in what it is I do as a neuromuscular therapist, that where Eastern and Western medicine meet, there's this beautiful area in between called wellness. And I wish more people would operate in that wellness hemisphere. And it seems like that's exactly what you're doing. So I kind of want to jump into these 4 desires and the fears that guard them, right? And in your form, you told me that every person in a relationship has 4 core desires, right? And I'm going to list them out really fast. One is connection, another one is autonomy, another one is security, and the 4th one is adventure. And that for each desire, there is a corresponding fear that jumps up and says, not so fast, right? So can you walk me through all 4? Because I think every couple listening is about to see themselves in a way.
Well, I think, yeah, when I start working with couples, I talk about there's going to be a balancing act between connection and autonomy. You wouldn't be in a relationship if you didn't want the connection. Right? People might have different ideas about connection. Like, I have couples where one person thinks that sitting over there on their chair doing their work and me sitting on the couch doing my work is connection for them. And another person was like, if you're not on top of me on the couch, then there is no connection. Some people say, we watched the show together last night. We were connecting. And other people are like, we watched TV.
No, we weren't.
That's not a connection.
Exactly.
But so
I'm that person,
connection,
Jeff.
Connection means something different to different people, but you want connection or you wouldn't be in a relationship. Hopefully you still want connection, but the autonomy is so critical to a relationship. You have to be yourself and know yourself and have some self-esteem and some pride in yourself, some respect for yourself, or the connection is not going to be very good. Ideally, what you want is to be fully yourself and fully connected at the same time. And that can be really hard. There are times where you do feel fully yourself when people are promoting you or giving you raises or saying how great you are. and there's times when you're connecting with your partner, but doing them both at the same time where you really feel full of yourself and also fully connected to your partner. That's the goal, and it's not always easy. Uh, but if you want a securely functioning relationship, you have to be able to balance those two. Often in a relationship, one person will be more on the connection side and one person will be more on the autonomy side. So one person will say, I just want more connection. Could you just come over here and sit next to me, please? And another person will be, I just need a little more space. Can I just have to do this thing in the other room just for a little bit? Uh, you know, autonomy versus connection. It's a tough balancing act that every relationship has to deal with one way or another. And sometimes the person who comes into the relationship demanding as much connection as possible, a decade later, they're fine, focusing on their career and their autonomous self, and they don't need that connection. Now the other person is suddenly looking for the connection. So it can shift. It's not like that's the way it is for the rest of your relationship. And you can intentionally make changes to those kinds of those desires. I think of these desires for some people, it's kind of a spiritual core thing to their being. This desire for connection can be so important to some people, and this desire to realize their autonomous self is a really important part of their being and their core. So these aren't just cute things; they also can be really deeply embedded in you. The other two that people balance is the one between security and adventure. And I don't know that adventure is the perfect word, but security is definitely the right word. And so many people are worried about their security, whether it's paying the rent at the end of the month or as far as relationships. Can I trust that my partner is who they say they are, that they're really doing what they say they're doing, that they're not having an affair on me? Can I trust everything about my partner? And can I trust that, the rug's not going to get pulled out from under me in any area of my life? Can I trust that I know generally where I'm headed in life and where our relationship is headed, right? That we both kind of have an agreement there. I feel secure within the relationship. I feel secure in myself. And then there's the adventure, which also includes kind of a wildness and anything that's freedom related, serendipity, right? If all you have is security, then you've lost the serendipity, the happy accidents that come from doing something different today than you did yesterday. And a lot of this balance shows up when the pandemic arrived, right? One person might say, are you crazy? You telling me I have to lock the door, nobody can come in, and I can't go anywhere? And every day is going to be the same as the day before? And my partner is right next to me. They're always there. And some people are like, yay, that's exactly what I've always wanted. And some people are like, are you crazy? I have to get out of here right now. Security versus adventure.
And that's such an interesting piece here, Jeff. And I'm curious, where my head jumps very, very naturally is to attachment styles on this.
Yeah.
Do you notice that those that have more of the secure attachment style fall more direction of security, adventure, connection, autonomy, and those that have more of an anxious attachment style fall a different direction?
There's times, anxious people are often on the security side. That's much more important to them than getting some adventure. And avoidant people are going to have a hard time with the connection, right? They want the connection, but it can be difficult for them. So they're going to be on the autonomy side more likely. So it's tied in, but it's not like a one-to-one relationship. What also is tied into this is the love languages. Like I think of the love languages, it's the way people express these desires, right? Like physical touch, that's definitely connection. What else is there? Acts of service.
Is
that connection? Is that security? Is that it's not autonomy because you're doing it for somebody else, but it is. You're kind of showing somebody your craft, your abilities in selling yourself to the other person. So they do tie in. It's sort of the way you make people
Interesting.
feel these things.
That's really interesting. So you said something earlier that like really kind of hit me there, and it made a lot of sense. You said that many couples, there's like one person that votes for more connection and the other one votes for more autonomy, or one votes for adventure and the other one votes for security. Like they're not fighting about like the dishes, you know, they're fighting about like which desire gets priority. Is that what most fights are actually about?
They're definitely not about what you're fighting about. It's usually much deeper than that. And yes, often these can become a negative cycle, right? I think every type of couples counseling, every theory talks about cycles because it feels when you're in a relationship that it's linear. If she would just stop doing this thing, I would feel better. Or if she would just start doing this thing, I would feel better. That's linear, right? She does something, I feel better. But it's not really like that. It's a cycle. What did I do that caused her to do that thing? And what did she do how do I react when she does do that thing? Right? It's part of a system. It's not an individual. It's not linear. It's cyclical, right? It's going around and around. And when you're first in a relationship, that cycle is positive, right? You say, oh my God, you look great. Or, oh my God, I can't believe you fixed that thing. You're so cool. Or, oh my God, that job you have is awesome. Or that new car you got is great, right? It's it feeds on itself. A virtuous cycle, right? You're just adding more and more positivity, more and more love, and it feeds on itself. But and one of the interesting things early on in a relationship is that every relationship is made up of what's familiar about your partner and what's different about your partner. And the familiar stuff is great. You speak the same language. Hopefully, there's things that are familiar, or you wouldn't be in the room with this person. But there's differences, and those differences. I'm just talking to somebody with a wife from a different country. In a very different culture and a very different style. And at first, it's so thrilling. It's so sexy. It's so hot. This person just grew up so differently. They're so quick. They've got so much libido, so much energy. They're just so much different than me. It's great. Give it a few years, and that can become really annoying and frustrating. The differences are often what pop up as annoying later on. And that's where that positive cycle can turn into that negative cycle. Once you get stuck in that, it's hard to get out.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. And I think what you're kind of just like what you're talking about, I know as like the honeymoon period. Yeah. Is that kind of what you're discussing?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So you're kind of saying that it's like the honeymoon period is more like dominated by hopes, and the later stages can be dominated more by fear. Is that what I'm understanding? So when does that?
Some people, when they're dating somebody, are just filled with fears about what's really happening. I have so many clients who are, on dating apps or going to speed dating, and the fears that they experience are tremendous. But once they're locked in after a month or so, and they start to believe this person actually loves them as much as they love that person, then hopefully the fears calm down and you start leaning into the hope.
Interesting. So for those that are going into like the later stages of their relationships, right? Like at what point have you seen that shift happens, and can it be reversed?
It absolutely can be, but not as long as you see your partner as the enemy, right? In this fight that you're having. It feels like there's this music playing and you always doing the same dance. You walk into the room, that music's on, you're gonna do that dance, right? And it's not a pretty dance. It's an ugly dance where you're attacking each other. And it just keeps happening over and over again. It may be, 100 different things that you're fighting about, but it's really at core one or two things that are really driving these fights. So, uh, yeah, I lost my train of thought there.
That's totally fine. That's okay. It sounds to me that there was actually another therapist that I had on the show. She talked about something called a preamble. And Jeff, I think you said that you heard that
I
episode.
did.
And I I know that as a sales tactic, by the way. I've been heavily trained in sales tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many times that we would go into an engagement and somebody would be like, listen, you're not going to like what I have to say to you. You're not going to like this price. You're going to think it's too high, but here it is. And this is why it is,
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we give something a preamble, it tends to soften the blow of the next words. So whenever people start hitting this cycle, right,
Mm-hmm.
do we need to start doing more of kind of like a preamble situation, or is there really a core issue here that needs to be kind of worked through?
Right. Yeah, I was interested in the preamble concept. I work with couples usually on the other side, which is the listener. Somebody's coming to you with some criticism or something, and or telling you about their terrible day. As a listener, what do you think they want? They may want different things. It's not always clear. So one thing that I heard a while back that I love is you ask, do you want to be hugged, heard, or helped? Meaning, do you just want me to give you a hug here? Or do you want me to sit and just listen with you? I'm okay. I'll be here while you're crying. I don't need to say a thing. Or do you want to be helped? Do you want some advice? Do you want me to actually give you something here, right? And I'll tell you that 95% of the time, people want to just be heard or occasionally hugged. But very rarely do people come for advice. When they do, they usually say, can you give me some advice? But it's human nature to want to give people advice, to want to tell people how they should have done it or how they could do it that would be better. And that's not what people usually want to hear.
It's so such a true statement.
Depending on the couple, I might say, Dr. Spock in the Star Trek series, he's the guy who's just pure rationality, pure logic.
Yeah.
And there's Captain Kirk.
Speaking my language here.
Captain Kirk, almost every episode, he ends up crying or something or falling in love. Just all emotion, right? And so the question, one of the questions I have people ask, depending on the couple, is, are you looking for Dr. Spock or are you looking for Captain Kirk in this conversation, right? I can tell you're upset, but what would you like? You want me to be the Spock or you want me to be the Kirk? Do you want me to just be here emotionally sitting with you, or do you want me to actually give you advice?
And that's I think that's a big piece, because there's a lot of times where I think I just need to rant, and my partner will actually, they're really good at doing this, trying to figure out if I need to rant or if I actually do need some help. Me, on the other hand, not so much. Like my instant desire is to go into fix it mode. Yeah. And sometimes I can actually make it worse, right? So, but the good news is, though, is that we do have the ability to change that, right? We do have the ability to kind of get better with those things. And inside of the pre-conversation that we had, you said something that I feel like is probably the most honest thing a therapist has ever written down. You said that when a partner actually starts to change, the other partner experiences 7 specific fears, right? And then you listed all 7. Can you walk us through those? Because I think the listener is about to have a very uncomfortable moment of recognition.
And yeah, that's why I do it. I'm basically saying, I know that as soon as you have the hope, you're here in a couples counseling, you're paying the money. You're sitting here taking time out of your day. You have hope for this relationship or you wouldn't be here, right? There's hope in there that this relationship can change, that things can get better, that your partner can be a better partner, and that you can be a better partner. And you wouldn't be here if you didn't have that hope. But I guarantee you, if you have hope, you also have fear. The fears are always riding shotgun with your hopes. So what are the fears? Typically, people say, okay, he changed. He did this one thing that I've been asking him to do, but I, it's not happening. It's not really happening. Or it's not hitting what I thought it was going to hit. Or he's doing it, right? He expressed his appreciation of me, but that's only because Jeff told him to. It's not authentic. It's not genuine. I don't trust this. Yeah, he's doing nice things for me, but I don't trust it. Or you're doing it now, but what about all those years you weren't doing these things? What about all those years
Sure.
you didn't seem to care about me at all? Am I supposed to just forget that? Now that you're doing it, it's almost making it worse. And okay, you did it today. You did it all week long. And I am impressed that you did it all week long, but you're going to fall back to the way you used to do it. I know you. There's no way you're going to keep this up. You can't
Sure.
change. You're never going to change. Or I don't want to, this is sort of like the other one. I don't want to experience all that pain from when you weren't like this, right? I'm just so, it's so painful. All my memories of you being a complete jerk to me. And now that you're being really nice to me, it's just bringing back all of that pain instead of making me feel better. And then the one I think that nobody says, oh, yeah, that's me. But I think it is there underneath is I'm going to have to change who I am or who I think you are or what this relationship is. What if you did change and suddenly become this different person and I changed and became a different person? Our whole relationship is unsettled. It's like you took a wheel off of my tricycle. How am I going to get that wheel back? How are we ever going to feel balanced again? It's just so weird to make these changes. I don't know if I want to go there.
Yeah. And that's an honest realization as well, you know, and that. So like, I understand that you do the somatic exercises with couples though as well, right? You have them sit close together, stare into each other's eyes, and then rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how open their heart feels, right? What happens in the room when two people have been fighting for years actually look at each other? Like, what happens there?
It's such an interesting physiological reaction that people have. There are a lot of people, I don't know if you've ever been, you must have with all the things you've done, in an exercise where you have to stare at somebody's eyes and they're staring at your eyes. And it's uncomfortable at first, and it makes you want to laugh, and it makes you nervous.
Sure.
And surprisingly, even couples who've been together for decades have a really hard time looking each other in the eyes. I think it's a valuable exercise, and I think people should do it until they get comfortable and really comfortable with it. Not just to be able to look in their eyes, but to be able to look at their face and their micro expressions and really take in all the little details, get to know your partner's face. We spend so much of our lives just seeing our partner zip by behind us or sitting next to us in a car. And there is no worse way to have a great conversation with your partner than in a car. For one thing, one person is driving and not paying attention. But the other thing is we are biologically designed to get social engagement cues by looking at somebody's face. That, I don't know if you've ever had the experience, I sure have, of walking into a business meeting, one of those long tables, everybody's sitting down, here's a chair for me. I don't know the people. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to have to say something. And I'm terrified right in the back of my mind. I'm really nervous. And you go and sit down, and the person across the table looks at you and smiles, and you smile back, and all of that anxiety just disappears. There's something so potent in that social interaction, that social engagement, just looking in somebody's eyes, having them smile back at you, and vice versa. It's intimate, and it's a beautiful thing, and it can really reduce your level of anxiety. So what I really want couples to do is to spend a lot more time sitting close to each other, close enough to touch, and looking in each other's eyes, or maybe not staring, but at least sitting close enough so that when they're having a conversation, you can see those expressions and the micro expressions. You know exactly what's going on. Why are people such jerks on the internet? Because you can't see the other person's face.
It's so true. Oh, those keyboard warriors, Jeff. Let me tell you, and that's the thing. I think it's so easy for people to go after other people on social media because number one, they don't have to deal with the fallout of the consequences, right? Normally, and then number two, they don't see the reaction.
Yeah,
and this somatic exercise that you're talking about, I think is really great. I love it. There's actually an exercise that was given to me in a previous relationship or previous marriage that I was in that we would look in each other's eyes and then I think it was we would name something we smell, see, hear, and then taste, right? Which is another one. And the therapist was like, have like a piece of chocolate or something sitting around to be able to do. And it helped really ground. And I thought it was a very interesting experience. Granted, my partner at the time thought it was a little hokey, didn't really like it. And again, like you were saying earlier, Jeff, there is always that one person in the relationship that tends to be a little bit more on the other side of things, right? So you're saying that these somatic exercises, no matter how weird they may feel, really do have a benefit to them, right? Yes. And that benefit seems to be a net positive, right?
Absolutely. The goal of that particular exercise is you have people they're inside themselves, right? They've got their eyes closed. They're trying to really take stock of what's going on inside. And I have them connect with their heart, right? In this metaphorical sense. Also, physically, if you can, put your hand on your heart. But metaphorically, how open is your heart to your partner? And then grade it from 1 to 10, where 1 is closed up tight. I'm really pissed. Or wide open. I'm just so overflowing with love and affection and compassion from my partner. That's a 10, right? So give it a number. And then I have them try to remember a time their partner really loved them, when they felt most loved by their partner, and really lean into that memory. What are the sights, sounds, smells that were going on at that moment? Why did it feel so loving that your partner was acting this way? It might have been some big thing, or it might have been some really tiny thing, doing the dishes together, but it was just a moment where you really felt loved. So you lean into that. And then I try again to say, now how open is your heart? And what most people find is that by focusing on memories of loving moments, you can open your heart. You can intentionally change yourself and open your heart wider towards your partner than it was. You are in control in a lot more ways than you believe you are of how open your heart is to your partner in that metaphorical sense, and how loving you want to be.
I love that, because that's really true. I tell everybody we do have control over our emotions, whether we believe it or not. We really do. And coming from me, of a person that is very quick to anger, and it's been something that I've had to work on a lot. And my current partner has really helped me a lot with that. But I'm really curious, though, I just want to step back for a second. With that somatic exercise and the somatic exercises in general, have you ever had a couple where like one person just couldn't do it? Like they just physically could not look at their partner?
Yes, I've absolutely had
really?
That. Yeah, where they felt like, that's torture. I'm out of here. I can't do this. But
what do you suggest for that?
Smiling and then looking away and then closing their eyes and then walking away. Like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's just they're overwhelmed with the intimacy. But there's definitely physiological stuff going on. And I would be really curious to find research. I haven't been able to find any. What gets triggered? Obviously, it's a sympathetic nervous system reaction, but why does that staring at somebody's eyes trigger these reactions? I'd be really curious to see what's happening in the brain at those moments. Some people are totally fine. They could do it for hours with anybody. It doesn't bother them at all. And other people, it's just overwhelming.
That's really interesting. And Jeff, if you ever find that research, you let me know, because I'm genuinely curious. But earlier you were talking about empathic listening, right?
Mhm.
And something that I've gotten better at, right?
Oh, good for you.
But you're saying that it's the opposite of advice giving, right? And that advice giving can be like a power play almost,
Yeah.
right? So can you like unpack that for me? Because I think a lot of people believe they're helping when they give advice. I know I do. And you're saying they might actually be taking control.
Yeah, there is evidence. There's been some research that shows that in a conversation, if somebody is giving the other person advice and they're listening to it, or they appear to be listening to you, that the person ends up feeling more powerful in themselves after the conversation. And if the person is just listening, they don't feel less powerful, they just feel the same. But if you're
Hmm.
giving advice and the other person appears to be listening, you feel stronger in yourself. You feel like a more powerful person. So, in that sense, it can be kind of a power play. Like, I know better than you know. I'm smarter
Hmm.
than you. I'm the teacher. You're the student. Right. And in
Hmm.
a relationship between partners, that can be really off putting, to say the
Absolutely. And I could definitely see, like, I mean, as a neuromuscular therapist, right, I deal with massage quite often.
uh-huh.
And whenever I teach, I also teach massage therapy. I teach about the power dynamic that there is. I mean, naturally, there is a power dynamic in what
Yep.
it is that we do. And Jeff, like in your profession, there's also a power dynamic there
Absolutely.
as well that has to be heavily recognized. And I think I'm really curious as far as relationships go, is there a power dynamic? And if there is, how do you spot it? And how do you help resolve it?
There are always power dynamics going on in any relationship, I think. But let, let me just say one thing that I forgot to say. I was telling you about why you don't want to have conversations in the car.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons is one person's busy. The other reason is that idea of looking somebody in the eye, that what you're doing when somebody is in your peripheral vision is you're triggering a primitive part of our brain that says danger, danger, danger. There's warning signals, there's alarm bells going off when you
Mm.
catch something out of the corner of your eye. So if you're trying to have this deep emotional conversation and your brain is saying danger, 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 alarms going off, it makes it much harder to actually be empathic, to be loving, to listen with an open heart and an open mind. Uh,
So, I mean, I guess that right there would also be, in a way, creating a power dynamic, right? Because that person on that side creating that danger, danger, danger for
yeah,
that other person,
right. And this
they
is the,
have a sense of power.
yeah, that's absolutely
That's,
true.
I never thought about it that way. That's really interesting.
I think every one of my couples, to some extent, there's a power dynamic around money. One person makes more
Uh,
than the other. It's almost inevitable. And in some, it really doesn't seem to bother them at all. They dump all their money into one pile. It doesn't really matter that much. But for most people, especially when one person is the homemaker and the other person is bringing in the bacon, it shows up in their relationship. How can it not? That they're doing different things with their lives and they're supporting the family in very different ways. And in
hmm.
this culture in America, the person bringing in the most money is supposed to be more powerful, right? That's sort of the
Hmm.
one of the excuses for patriarchy in the old days, right? I'm the one bringing home the bacon, so I expect you to have dinner waiting for me. What are
Yeah.
you doing all day? And of course, they're doing a
And
huge
that's,
amount, but and
of
getting
course.
respect for it.
And that's the biggest thing I think a lot of people kind of forget about also is that power dynamic is still kind of there in multiple ways, no matter what you do, you know,
Yep.
and especially with money, that's a big one. I definitely know a lot of friends, couples, acquaintances, and people that I've just passed on the street that you can see very quickly
Mhm.
that exists, right? And uh, earlier you kind of alluded to this, right? But I kind of want to hand you something to just kind of blow up for a
Okay.
minute, okay? And earlier you alluded that there's this misconception, right? That people believe their partner is like incapable of change, right?
Right.
And you said that's the fear talking,
Hmm.
right? One of those 7 fears is someone who has changed careers quite a few times,
Uh-huh.
right? How do you respond to the person sitting in your office who says they'll never change? How do you respond to that?
Uh, yeah. Well, for those 7 ideas that I threw out, it's not really happening. It's not authentic, or it's not exactly what I wanted. All of those things. I don't think I've ever read that where somebody didn't go, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't believe this is going to
Sure.
keep up, right? Yes, it's happening today, and
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate that, but it's not going to keep happening. Uh, so once they see that, they see how just that thought is kind of sabotaging the chance of them changing their relationship and allowing their
Mm.
partner to change. You may want your partner to change in certain ways, but once they do, it's not always exactly what you wanted, or it's not exactly the way you
Sure.
wanted it. Uh, so, like, I cook dinner, and I actually really enjoy cooking dinner. I also do dishes, and I could see at some point getting, pissed off about that, or pissed off about something else, and using that as the example. Why do I have to cook the dinners all the time? What is it? How did that happen? And I know exactly how it happened, but the answer is, if she suddenly came in and started cooking with me, or started cooking something, I would be noticing all the ways she does it differently than me. Could be better than me, might
Hmm.
be worse, I don't know. But it's different than me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really annoying to watch somebody do something differently than me. So when she does cook, I leave the room. I don't want to see it. I don't want to imply that there's anything wrong with what she's doing, because there isn't. It's just different from the way I do it. But it's an example of, you could demand, you have to start cooking. But is that really what you want? Sometimes it is, but sometimes you don't actually want the roles to change. Sometimes you do. I mean, sometimes if you're doing, like, she does all the sheets and the laundry because she cares about that stuff. I do the dinners
Mm-hmm.
and the dishes because I care about that stuff. I love cooking. I love cleaning up afterwards. I'm okay with that. So you pick
Sure.
roles that you care about, that you want to do, not, and hopefully between the two of you, you can sort things out, or hire somebody to do
So
the dirty work.
yeah, right. Or that's another one.
Mhm.
Like, so can you tell me like what it looks like the moment someone in your office realized that the thing they believed about their partner was actually like a story they were telling themselves? Like that or maybe it wasn't really what it is that they want to
Right,
change?
right, exactly. Yeah, there's plenty of times uh, that I've seen people try to. Look, one of the first couples I met with uh, in my practice, the woman came in and said, "My husband is a slob, and I need you to convince him that he's got to change his ways." It's disgusting. Nobody could live with somebody like that.
Okay.
It's just
Okay.
objectively the truth that he's a slob. And then when it was his turn, she has OCD. She's obsessive. She's a neat freak. She's out of her mind. Everything
Okay.
has to be perfect, or it's ridiculous how much work she wants me to do to clean
Sure.
when I'm doing almost nothing. So they both wanted me to convince their partner they were wrong, and it wanted me to take one of their sides or the other. And the only, in the end, the only advice is, you each got to take one step towards the other and come to some radical acceptance of your partner. Maybe not the way they are. They can change, and let's try to get each one of you to make some changes that
Sure.
might make a difference to your partner. But in the end, it's going to require some radical acceptance, because you guys seem really different on this one topic. And I'm guessing
And
probably something else underneath that.
I think it's
There's a
really
story.
interesting and funny that you kind of called out the fact that with couples counseling, one always comes in saying, be on my side, and the other one saying, but my side, my side. Is that really common? I'm really genuinely curious. Is that a commonality?
I think it's almost universal that people feel like the partner is doing something wrong. Like I was saying, this linear concept, if they would stop doing that thing, I could feel better. If they would start, if my wife would start cooking, I would feel better. It's not really true. And there's a reason why I'm cooking and she's not. There's a history there. But no, it's a cycle. It's not linear like that. But yes, and most people do. They come in, they want you on their side. They want you to say, yes, your partner is crazy and really needs to change. And you're okay. Everything that you're doing is great. Not everybody. There are people who are self-aware, but
of course. But I mean, like, that's kind of like where people kind of go in for couples counseling, whenever they feel like things are in trouble. And I have to tell the people out there, guys, we don't just go to therapy when things are bad. All right. I need everybody to remember that. We can go to therapy when things are good, because you know why we should be doing that? It keeps things from going bad,
There you go.
But I think what I'm understanding, though, with that misconception is that, yes, they can change, but they have to want to change. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's certainly true. You're there because you have hope for this relationship, right? You're paying the money. You're taking the time out of your day because there's some hope there. But you will feel fears. They are going to come up. The question is, can you quell the fears or ignore the fears or talk yourself through the fears and get back to the hopes? There's one thing through me. I was in therapy when I was a while back. I had just had my son, actually. And my therapist asked me, what was it like when you walked into the room and your parents were there? How did they act? What were their facial expressions like? Did you feel like they were delighted to see you, or you were annoying them? Or how did you feel when you walked in the room? And I immediately went, oh, fuck. How does my son feel when he walks in the room? What is he seeing on my face? I just forget about my parents. They've died anyway. But what about me? What am I projecting? Am I projecting annoyance when he comes in? He's making so much noise. What am I projecting? What does my face say? And from there, I actually looked at myself in the mirror to try to figure out, what does this look like to other people? What does my wife see when she walks into the room? Am I welcoming? Am I delighted to see her? Or is it, what am I giving off, right? And that made me realize, as I worked on it, you can change. These deep parts of your personality, your resting bitch face, all that kind of stuff, you can change some of that, right? You're not stuck with who you are forever, right? You can make changes, but you have to be intentional about it. You have to keep at it, or it will be one of those things that you're doing it now, but I know you're going to go back to the way it used to be. You have to you have to be persistent. You have to work at it. Just like going to the gym, you can't do it once and say, I'm done.
Got to flex the muscle. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I tell everybody, I'll tell you, having a marriage was the hardest job I ever had, right? And I shouldn't call it a job, because job implies it's like not something you enjoy, right? But it was difficult. It's hard work. And it's something you always have to continuously work on, And you just brought something up, Jeff, that I'm definitely going to do a lot better on. Is I never thought about how my facial expressions are whenever I walk into a room, and how that can actually give off an energy to other people. What an absolutely brilliant insight that I just got for myself today. So I'm actually going to do better about that now. So tell me, there's probably somebody that's listening right now with the person they love, right? Or maybe they're alone, or they're thinking of the person that they may love at this period of time. And they just heard everything we said about hope and fear and the 4 desires and the 7 fears of change, all those things. What is it that they should do tonight? Like, can you give them an exercise? Can you give them a piece of advice? Like, what should they do this evening?
I think the most important thing, and every couple who shows up, one of the things at least that they say is wrong is we don't communicate, or we're not communicating well. Can you help us communicate with each other? We're not communicating. So that's where I would start, is communicating. And what I'm talking about is not like in the car where somebody's off in your peripheral vision, or one person's cooking and the other person's in the other room. I'm talking about sitting down. It could be at a table or it could be in chairs, and look at each other. Sit close enough. You could touch each other if you wanted to, and look in each other's faces, right? Eyes. You don't have to stare at each other, but sit that close. Just because it's so much harder to be a jerk if you're looking in somebody's face, and it feels good if the person smiles at you and you smile back. It relieves your anxiety. So you have to show up to a conversation like that with an open mind and an open heart, in the metaphorical sense. Just open your heart to your partner and remember that how much you love them. Try to feel some of that gratitude. Why do I still love this person? Why am I grateful that they're in my life? Tune into some of those things before you sit down and get yourself ready. Open mind and open heart. And then focus, the listener has to listen empathically, which means it's really hard to do, but it's possible. But you have to focus your full attention on the other person and just resist all the distractions, the internal ones, my tummy's gurgling, and the external ones. Oh, I think that was somebody in the next room. Just put yourself in a place of perfect openness to the other person as you try to enter their world and imagine what it would be like to be them. You have to enter their world with no judgment and no criticism and no advice. Make yourself present. Just listen carefully, respond compassionately, and be with your partner. It's harder than it sounds. And why is that?
It is.
It's just natural to divide your attention between different things. Let your thoughts wander. Right? Anybody who's tried to do meditation knows it's hard to keep your thoughts from wandering. And it's really easy to become critical and judgmental of your partner or whomever you are speaking with. And thinking about advice you want to give them, right? That's really hard to turn that off. The advice machine is always working on overdrive when you're listening to somebody else talk. But empathic listening requires that you suspend your own needs in the service of entering the other person's world. Turn off the advice machine and just be an empathic listener. And all the old adages about therapy talk, yes, recap what they say or give them an idea that you actually heard them, and ask questions, right? Even though you think you know everything there is to know about your partner, you wrote the book on your partner and you published it and put it on the shelf, there's nothing new to learn. Try to learn something new about your partner by asking questions. Be curious about them again. They are not the same person that you met how many years ago. They have changed, as have you.
I love that advice, Jeff. I really do. I think it's beautiful. I think it's very sound. And I think it's very direct as well. And so everybody, you heard it, it's empathic listening. Like it is. It's being able to be thoughtful, be loving, ask the questions, learn about your partner further. And Jeff, I just have to say, this has just been such a great conversation. I have really enjoyed it. I've learned stuff, so I know if I know the listeners are going to. And I just have to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And if somebody wants to potentially maybe bring you on as their therapist, right? Where is it that people can find you?
Well, probably the easiest thing is just to email me. I've got an open email. It's Jeff, Jeff, at SF, as in San Francisco, Shore, my last name, SHORE.com. So Jeff at sfshore.com. And I do want to say one more thing, which is that a lot of this stuff I've stolen from mentors like Stan Tapkin, who came up with the psychobiological approach to couples therapy, or one of my early mentors, Gal Zekeli, who's a co-director of the Couples Center, where I still do some work. And he's been instrumental and has come up with some of this stuff with me and by himself that I've just stolen. John Gottman, there's so many couples therapists out there that I've ripped off. So this is not my new theory that I came up with off the top of my head. These are just ideas that I've heard and that I love.
Of course. And Jeff, I'll tell you, is every massage therapist will also say, I had a great mentor, but I did craft my skill myself, right? So it's not about what it is that you know, it's about how it is you utilize it. And Jeff, it definitely seems like you utilize it in the best ways. And I just have to say, it's been an extreme honor to get to speak to you. Your career path has been incredible. And obviously what you're doing now, you were really meant to do. And I hope you don't get bored of this one because it definitely seems like you're in the right spot. So again, thank you so much again for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. All right. So here's what I want you to take from today. Jeff Shore's been everything. He's been everything. He's been a cocaine hotline founder, a recording engineer, a 6th grade teacher in Hawaii, a tech manager in Tokyo. And after all of it, he came full circle back to the one thing that always mattered. Sitting across from two people who love each other and helping them remember why. He said something today that I'm taking with me. He said, look at yourself in the mirror and ask, what does my partner see when I walk into the room? Am I welcoming? Am I delighted to see them? Or am I giving off something else entirely? That one question is changing how I think about every room I walk into now. So tonight, sit close to your person, close enough to touch. Look in their eyes and just listen. No advice, no fixing. Just be curious about them again. They're not the same person you met, and neither are you. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And send this to someone who keeps having the same fight. The answer might be simpler than they think. This is Pain to Performance. I'll see you next time. Before we take off, one quick housekeeping thing. This podcast is for education and conversation only. I'm in no way a licensed therapist, doctor, wizard, and this show is not a substitute for care from a qualified professional. If something today made you think of someone you know, go ahead and do them a favor and send this episode their way. Pain is rarely a solo experience, and a good conversation is better shared. And if you're enjoying the show, make it official. Follow, subscribe, leave a review. It helps more than you realize and keeps this conversation going. Remember, the hardest part of Pain to Performance is learning how to listen. Now, I'll be here, same place, next play, and I can't wait to welcome you in.